I'm going to marry the woman I cheated on you with, and I want a divorce.
My husband said this without hesitation. And finally, he said something like this.
And because I'm getting married again, I need you to look after my parent.
What? I'm counting on you, okay? My mother-in-law, who do not blame her own son for having an affair and try to depend on me. I cannot be with such insane people. So I told them something. Then my mother-in-law turned pale and apologized to me sincerely. I am so sorry. My name is Vicky. I'm 40 years of age and works a part-time job. My husband Andy and I have been married for about 16 years. We met through work. We were co-workers at the same company. We started working together on the same project and went out for drinks. We grew closer and ended up dating. My husband was 5 years older than me, and from my point of view at the time, he seems to be a mature man. He was funny and cool, and I fell in love with him at once. We then went on several dates and ended up having a relationship. And after about a year of dating, he proposed to me and we got married. I was very happy to marry the man I loved. I was only 24 years old at the time, but I still decided to get married. So I guess I really loved him. After that, I was happily married with my husband and working together. Then, after 3 years of marriage, our son Daniel was born. He was so cute, thinking he was an angel when he was just born. We were happy, and we were building a good family. I resigned from my job after the birth to focus on raising our son. I thought it was good that I quit my job because I was able to spend a lot of time with my son. And I had a rather good relationship with my in-laws. Every time I went to visit my in-laws, they smiled kindly at me and made me feel comfortable. I thought that I was really living a happy married life. My parents-in-law are very fond of their grandson Daniel. They often came to our house and we went to visit them. Then my husband made this suggestion.
Would you like to move in with my parents? So that Daniel and my parents will see each other every day. We could live in a big house without paying rent.
I thought that was a good idea. Because my in-laws and I had a good relationship at that time. My son is going to grow up. Then it would be better for him to live freely in a bigger house. I thought so and agreed to live with them. However, I regretted my decision at the time. At first, I thought that living together with them was going very well. My parents-in-law seemed very happy to be able to live with their grandchildren. And my husband seems relaxed to be back in his parents' house. I tried my best to do housework as a housewife. My parents-in-law and my husband never complained to me. My son grew up to be a good boy, and we all watched him grow up. However, there was something that bothered me. My parents-in-law spoiled my son too much. They bought him everything he wanted and gave him allowance without our permission. I saw this and thought it was not good for my son. I felt it was not good for his education. So one day, I told my parents-in-law, "Can you please not buy Daniel too many things?" When I said this, my in-laws' eyes widened and they became angry. "You are depriving us of a joy of spending time with our grandchild."
Do you think you are the only one raising him?
They were the ones who yelled at me like that. But as a mother, I wanted to educate him properly, so I didn't take a step back. I didn't mean it like that. Of course you are free to play with Daniel. I'm just asking you not to buy things for him without permission.
You know, if Daniel wanted something, you'd buy it for him, wouldn't you?
Yes, and how will you take the responsibility if we don't buy it, and it makes him sad and he doesn't like us? It seems that the in-laws buy things for their grandchild because they want him to like them. But what if that makes my son selfish? How are they going to take responsibility? The parents-in-law are very kind. I will explain to Daniel that his grandparents is very kind and loves him. Please don't buy him anything like that. Even though I had said all that, my in-laws did not seem to be convinced. When my husband came home from work, they started talking to him as if it was my fault. Vicky told me not to play with my grandchild.
She wants to be alone with him.
She wants to fend to him all for herself. I was surprised to hear my in-laws say something completely different, and my husband took them at their word.
Hey, what's going on? You're being mean to my mom and dad.
Just wait a minute. I didn't do anything like that. I gave my husband a good explanation. I said I wanted them to stop buying him too much stuff for the sake of our child. But my husband believed what my in-laws said, not what I said.
Don't be silly. Don't lie to me like that.
I'm not lying.
Then you are saying my parents are lying.
My husband's eyes widened, and he became too angry. In the end, no matter how much I tried to explain, he believed my in-laws' side of the story.
I never thought you were such a terrible woman.
Since then, my husband and my in-laws have been cold toward me. Your food tastes bad.
You serve fish too often. Don't treat us like we're old people, you idiot. Don't bother mom and dad. You really are a useless wife.
These are the kind of things my parents-in-law say to me every day. How can they continue to abuse me like that? I think it is mentally exhausting to be abused by people. I even considered divorce. But my son was only about 5 years old at the time. I have been a housewife since my son was born, and I had not worked for a long time. I was also worried about whether I would be able to find a new job. I had no assurance that I would be able to take him with me when I left. In my current situation, my in-laws can take care of him. My husband is likely to decide that he should take him in instead of me because he has a steady salary. Just because I'm not getting along with my in-laws, I didn't want to give up my son. So I had to just bear with it and not get a divorce. They took advantage of the fact that I was not resisting. My in-laws and my husband started to say more and more terrible things to me. They were so abusive to me that I wondered if they were really the same people. So I started not to think of them as people at all. It makes me feel a little better. That's how I lived my hard life day by day. No matter how badly my husband and in-laws treated me, I thought it would be better if I could watch my son grow up by my side. My son grew up so fast that he went to elementary school. I was worried that he might become selfish because my in-laws had given him too many things. He is a good listener at home, and it seems to be the same at school. When his homeroom teacher told me that he was a very kind and considerate child, I was extremely happy, and my son was studying hard and doing well in school. But for some reason, my in-laws made it sound like it was their achievement.
It's because of our good teaching, isn't it?
That's right. We praise and develop him. We buy him what he wants. That's what's important. I don't understand how buying him what he wants will improve his grades. But my parents-in-law seem to want to involve themselves in everything. I was just trying to give them credit for their son's own hard work while listening to them appropriately. I never tried to get his affection by buying things like my in-laws did. My son still adored me. He would always say, "Mom, Mom," and tell me about things that happened at school. I guess my in-laws didn't like that. When my son reached the middle school years of elementary school, the amount of things he needed got expensive. Until then, it was just sweets and toys. But at that time, they bought him the latest game consoles and software. No matter how much I tried to stop my parents-in-law, it was not enough. I told my son not to play too much and to be punctual and keep his promises. But even then, my in-laws were a pain in the ass.
Don't you feel sorry for him? That you have to stop him from playing when he still wants to play?
We bought it for Daniel because we wanted him to enjoy it. I reported it to my husband, and he yelled at me, which became the usual norm. I was already completely disgusted, and already completely dumbfounded. All I wanted was for my son to grow up to be a good man. That was how I spent my days. Time went by, and my son turned 13 years old. He was now a junior high school student, and as he entered puberty, I faced a lot of difficulties as a parent. While I was thinking about this, an unexpected problem occurred. It was a holiday. My husband suddenly called me into his bedroom and said he wanted to talk to me. I said, "What on earth do you want me here for?" I was completely out of touch with my husband, so I was sure he had no intention of doing so. As I was thinking about this, my husband suddenly made a surprising statement.
"I'm going to marry the woman I'm cheating on you with."
What? Divorce? I was surprised at an unexpected words coming from my husband.
Well, it's no wonder you're surprised. I've been trying to keep it from you, but I thought it was time to tell you.
My husband said that to me without hesitation. Why did he decide to publicly tell me that he was having an affair? Well, I don't know what a stupid person thinks. And then, he even said something like this.
"And because I will be marrying someone else, I'm going to ask you to take care of my parents too."
What? Wait a minute. We are getting a divorce, right? Then I will have to live with Daniel, won't I? When I said that, my husband said something outrageous.
"I'm the one who is leaving."
What? What do you mean?
"I'm going to leave this place and start a new married life with my new wife. I'm worried about my parents and the kid, so I'm leaving you in charge of the house. You have a house and you get to live with Daniel, so it's a win-win, right?"
I was shocked. It was not a win-win situation at all. I was at a loss for words.
"So I will tell my parents about it right away,"
my husband said, and suddenly started to head for the living room. I hurried after him. He gave the same explanation to my parents-in-law as he had given to me. I thought they would be angry with him. My in-laws were also crazy people. They said, "Yes, we will miss you, but it can't be helped."
I agree. I think it's better for newlyweds to spend time alone together. We'll be fine as long as this woman takes care of us.
My in-laws, who don't blame their own son for having an affair and try to rely on me.
"If you want to leave, I will make sure you leave Daniel behind."
"If you want to leave, you're the only one who leaves." I can't be with these insane people. I told them something. "Let me tell you something. I can claim alimony because it is my husband's fault and I'm divorced. And I have a better chance of getting my son."
What? What do you mean?
"Because my husband committed adultery. Isn't it better for him to live with someone who hasn't committed adultery?"
Wait a minute. So you are living with Daniel?
"Yes, of course I will."
"We won't let you. Let's ask Daniel then."
My in-laws and my husband said, and went to call my son. They were not going to tell him everything, were they? My son came into the living room.
"What's wrong?" "Dad and Mom are getting a divorce."
"What?"
"So Daniel, how would you like to live here with your grandparents?"
Such an explanation and question was unfair. I quickly said the important part. "You better explain to him that you are divorcing me because of your infidelity." When I said this, my husband and in-laws were in a panic.
"Daniel is just a junior high school student."
"Yes, he is. Why are you trying to shock him?" My parents-in-law and husband blamed me. But before I could retort, my son opened his mouth. "You're the one who caused the shock, aren't you? Why are you all blaming my mother?"
"What? I mean, I could hear you all arguing earlier. You guys are not sure which one I'm going to follow if you get divorced. It's definitely my mother.
Daniel, why?
Don't you want to live with Grandma and Grandpa? You were nice to me, but you were terrible to my mother, weren't you? To be honest, I couldn't forgive you for that. All of you, Grandma, Grandpa, and Dad. I despised you, and I despised my father for not protecting my mother and blaming her for everything.
Despise? My in-laws looked shocked.
Anyway, I have one answer. I'm living here with my mother. From now on, I'm going to take care of her.
Daniel, I was so happy that my son was on my side. Then my in-laws turned pale and did their best to apologize to me.
We are so sorry.
I apologize, so please don't leave this house. I don't want my grandchild to leave. My parents-in-law pleaded with me, and my husband.
Please, you guys stay here. If you don't stay here, my plan will be ruined. My plan is to live here.
My son and I were not going to give in at any cost. Daniel and I will no longer have anything to do with you. We will definitely be leaving this house, I said, and began to pack up our belongings. My son joined me in packing his bag with only what he needed for the time being.
Where are you going?
My parents' house.
If we go to your parents' house, Daniel will have to change schools. That would be a pity.
My husband said things like that and tried to keep us here until the end.
I would rather change schools than stay here forever. You should first be sorry for what you have done. Do you have any idea how much of the terrible things you have done to your family?
My husband is admonished that way by a child who has just started junior high school. I found it hilarious and struggled to hold back my laughter. My husband looked down, his face turning blue. My parents-in-law were so exhausted that they just slumped down on the floor. My son and I left the house, with him by my side, and drove to my parents' house. I then hired a lawyer and demanded a divorce from my husband, alimony and child support. Of course, I also demanded alimony from the adulterer. My husband thought that if we stayed with his parents, he would not have to pay child support. However, everything did not go as planned, and as a result, he had to pay alimony and child support. In addition, the adulterous partner told him that the story was different, and he was eventually dumped. He is currently staying with his parents and putting most of his income towards alimony and child support. By the way, I told my in-laws' neighbors about the incident. I also sent a content-certified letter to my ex-husband's workplace. People around my ex-husband know about the affair. My ex-husband and in-laws are being looked at coldly by everyone around them. They have been cut off from almost everyone and have become isolated. My ex-husband was told by his parents, "It is your fault. It has become impossible for us to see Daniel." I heard that he was stuffed.
My earnings have made you guys rich until now.
My ex-husband sent me a message saying sorry, and that he wanted to get back together with me. I only read the messages and blocked my ex-husband. I also blocked all incoming calls so that he could not contact me at all. And after I went back to my parents' house with my son, I started working as a clerk at a company that my father knew. Now I'm raising my son as a single mother with the support of my parents. My son has remained a kind-hearted child despite all that has happened. He seems to be adjusting well to his new school. I will continue to work as hard as I can and watch my son grow up.